the parks where we do use pesticide. We do get complaints about the pesticide-free parks. There's too many weeds, and we get that. We are very much, I guess, programmed to the turf expectation being lush green grass. So if we want to, make changes throughout the system or expand that program, we really need to beef up our education on that. Kelly, you mentioned how it impacts water, and we are well aware of that. And so right now we're trying to strike a balance, and we would not want to just go nuclear all at once, because Kelly, you'd be getting a lot of calls on both sides of the argument. So
how many of those pesticide-free parks are in Ward 4?
Oh, good question. I'd have to look that up.
Parkside for sure, and I have a funny feeling MLK is being converted, isn't it?
Not holistically. There may be some areas that we're not treating, but not globally. I'll give you that list here shortly.
Can I talk while you're looking it up?
Yeah, because I can't talk and look things up at the same time. So go ahead.
Me neither. I can't multitask. So as far as the education goes, with the Olmsted County Master Gardener volunteers, I think we could do huge outreach on that. We have access to the farmers market every Saturday. We could easily put out a flyer. And of course, there's the University of Minnesota Bee Lab that Marla Spivak is, internationally renowned, one of the most knowledgeable people in our country for sure about bees, honeybees, as well as native bees. And the pollinator lab that's there, we've gotten all kinds of pollinator education stuff. We've got a pollinator growth team that's working, and at our own MLK Park, we're going to be planting that 315-foot perimeter around the garden with pollinators this year. So
that's amazing.
I think I'm also a Blue Thumb lawns to legumes coach. So I coach folks when they do their outreach. I'm one of the names listed for the city of Rochester to coach folks on converting their lawn or putting in rain gardens, that kind of thing. So I think we can really help with the education and outreach, at least, in Ward 4. I mean, obviously I'm a councilman for the whole city, but we can get this going, especially I think if we combine it with those master gardeners, if you want to partner. I'm all about partnerships, private-public partnerships for sure. P3. And it doesn't have to be the built environment. It doesn't have to be funding. It can just be good folks getting together to share the love of the land and doing the work that we need to make our community better.
Well, I'll tell you that's how this program came to be, is from community input and partnerships, and started out with folks just wanting to get out and roll up their sleeves and help out. Getting back to your question, how many are in Ward 4? We have Parkside and Joyce Parks.
Okay.
So those are the two, and it's we have expanded. We are now up to 11. We started out with 7, so I was still carrying that original number in my head. And look, it's actually 12. It's two per ward is what we've done.
Oh, nice. So, okay, so they're 2 per ward. Nice. Are they all out on the periphery, Paul?
Yeah, it's selected neighborhood parks. For example, in my ward, we have Northern Heights and Northern Slopes parks. That's adjacent to my actual in my neighborhood. Crescent Park and Viking. Those are pretty. I don't want to say isolated, but they serve just like all the neighborhood parks, very specific neighborhoods. Those are, all of them are really good examples. Badger Hills in Ward 3, that's another one that comes to mind. That then the landscaping in that park kind of lends itself to this being successful.
When did the pesticide-free parks start?
2017.
Okay, all right, very good.
So we're tracking just a few years of that, and I mentioned that we get complaints. I think this is cycled through where people are understanding why we're doing it. There are concerned parents. I would probably be one of those parents if I had young kids. They won't take their kids to a park where pesticides are used. So this does provide them an option to get outdoors. And so, yeah, there are just advantages all the way around. And I think, you know, that I talked about our expectation, or kind of our cultural expectation of what turf should look like. And what we're trying to do as we design new parks is to make them, you know, put landscaping and other features in that have the same advantage of, you know, collecting rainwater and that turf does, but you know, just not, you know, the kind of cutting down on the presence of the turf, doing flower beds, just mulched areas. So, yeah.
Cool.
Awesome, awesome. So, what else we got here?
The smart salt training.
Oh, the smart salt training, yeah. I should have brought up, I should bring that up quickly here. mpca.gov. I think, no, it's probably just MPCA. Oh, it's kind of hard to see with my old eyes. Smart salting. Training.
So Paul, what's your understanding of smart salt training? Like, do we do it, or is this like a new thing that we would be introducing? I mean,
Well,
I
I'm really happy to say in the park system, we do very little use of salt. We clear trails, remove snow. That doesn't really require us, or we don't clear the snow to that level where we're throwing salt down on any of the trails or any of the parking lots and city buildings that we maintain. Now, what you're going to see is users of the facilities concerned about safety will get out, you know, like the facility maintenance folks at City Hall are the ones salting, and then, you know, 125 Live, you know, we'll clear the snow from the parking lot. They go out and do kind of the detail work, shoveling the walks and putting salt or other chemicals down.
So Kelly, what are your thoughts with the smart salt program? Like, are you looking to sort of change the behaviors and like at 125 Live of the folks that are doing the salting, or what are your thoughts?
I'm ultimately trying to improve water quality and protect habitats for biodiversity and wildlife. And I think, you know, when you look at how chlorinated and sediment filled our storm water retention ponds are getting, the city of Madison has to dig another well for their city water because the chloride level has become so high that they can taste the salt. It's really expensive for a city to dig another well. I mean, we've got several and we've capped several, but our largest one starts with a J. I can't remember the name now. The Jeremiah well or Joseph well or something like that. I can't remember, but you know, we've got really good water here, but we've also got a geology that doesn't even filter anything. It just seeps right through because of our karst, and it's just a channel. And for everything, for all of the pollutants, if it isn't anchored down during a snow or rain event, whatever's not anchored down can be transported anywhere. So that includes salt, and 1 teaspoon of salt it's permanently damages 5 gallons of water. So Nick Queensland, when he was the director of facilities at Mayo, he did some work. He won the Environmental Achievement Award, I think, through was it Freshwater or some environmental place back in 2019, and we both did a little piece on how important it is to cut down on chloride use. So he typically used 4 to 5 tons of salt, I believe, on the 110 acres at Mayo. And he did it with all just 1 ton on that first snow event in 2019.
Wow.
Yeah. And there were no safety issues. He switched to cherry stone grit, which you can get like through Fleet Farm or any wholesalers. And you can sweep it up and reuse it. So there, your inputs, you can reuse them. You're paying for labor and, you know, for pickup. But There were no safety issues, there were no injuries, and Mayo saved a ton of money. So I don't know why we can't, as a city,
Yeah.
hire only smart salting contractors, ones that are actually certified. So how do we as a city step up what we're doing to protect our environment, to preserve our water quality and our biodiversity for future generations? That ties in with our sustainability and resilience piece that we're doing. And smart salting training, it's already offered free. So it should be really easy for us to say, hey, if you want to contract with the city, you need to be smart salt certified. And for that matter, you know, the city forestry folks, they're all ISA, you know, certified tree pruners. They're arborist certified tree pruners, but the private contractors are not. So why can't we have the city folks be smart salt certified, so they're putting down the appropriate amount, they're doing the right thing, they're using a brine versus a, you know, a large crystallized salt product, chloride product. And I think we could do really good by our residents and businesses and
Stewardship.
yeah, stewardship.
Stewardship of our,
Yeah,
like in multiple places, right?
Yeah,
The environment,
yeah.
the financial aspect of it.
it eats away at the foundations and the metal doors, and then
I
you
mean-
have to replace those. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
It's just so toxic. It's
Yeah,
what it is.
yeah.
Even though it's a natural thing, it's
Yep,
it's a
yep.
killer.
Everything in moderation.
Paul, how, so obviously Parks and Rec is only one piece of that. Who, like, where?
Public Works.
Public Works.
It's Public
Okay.
Works. Yeah.
All right. And
Yeah.
Paul, do we partner with Public Works, or do we really only have our own operations that we take care of, right?
No, I think on a number of fronts, such as this, there's a lot of cross coordination that goes into, you know, we team up with Public Works on our snow removal plan every year, so they're informed of what we're doing. I believe that there's times where we help out and vice versa, just because, you know, there's a lot of trucks out there on the road, and it just, you know, it's one of those things that just, you know, not saying silos don't exist between the
Sure,
departments, but this is one that on the ground level, we're doing a lot of cross coordination.
Cool. So in the last year, I've spent some time with both the Northeast and the Southeast clinic that are standalone buildings, and they the group, Mayo Clinic does not take care of the facilities support outside of the because we lease the building at the Southeast Clinic, and so they contract with a private group, and being the interim ops manager there, we were working through heavy salting, so much so that they would come out and salt, and I called the guy, and it's just like, it seems like there's a lot of salt happening, and like other people had noticed it, and it's a safety concern, right? Like exactly as everyone has said, right? And for a clinic, we've got people coming in that their mobility is sometimes strained, and so, and he just kind of poo-pooed my concerns, our collective concerns. He's like, oh, I use the environmentally sound stuff. This all goes into special reservoirs, like da 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 da. And so, what are your thoughts about that? Like when people are thinking, he pretty much just didn't. My contributions were not resonating with him, and he was like, we do this all the time, da 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 da. And so for individual landowners and for those of us who are trying to do sort of the environmentally, I don't know, stewardship thing on our own land, what would you recommend when you see all these chemicals that say environmentally safe and all this?
Are you asking Paul or are you asking me?
I'm asking either of you, whoever wants to take that, because Kelly, I know like you're kind of a subject matter expert in this space. So
Maybe not, but I know, well, I'm the city's water steward.
So
The bottom line is you're supposed to look at the ingredients on the back of the product, whether it's food, anything. You want to look at the ingredients. If it says magnesium chloride, potassium chloride, calcium chloride, if there's the word chloride on it, it is salt,
Mhm.
period, end of story.
Mhm.
And it's going to damage the water permanently. And if you're throwing it down outside, it's going into a storm sewer and it's going directly into our rivers and lakes. Done deal. If it says chloride and it goes outside, it goes into our rivers and lakes. It doesn't matter about the advertising on the front of the label. Done deal.
Okay.
What's your answer, Paul?
Am I unmuted? Oh, I am. Okay. Yeah, for me, I know this is going to sound like a typical bureaucrat, department supervisor. It really is, the focus needs to be on the policy, because, you know, every chemical we use, whether it's window cleaner to salt, pesticides, there are strict guidelines that we follow in application, you know. And you probably know and see it in your workplaces. You know, you just don't have anything on your shelf that you don't have a data sheet or now online tool that you can look up to see how it interacts with other chemicals and how to use it safely. So we follow all those guidelines and policy. Now, those are pretty standard and low level. You know, you bring up some interesting points. Yes, I can go to Menards or Home Depot or call any of our supplier and get salt delivered and use it. And right now we don't have a policy that directs me otherwise. But if the department or better yet, citywide, we get together and develop guidelines that we're all working and using, then, you know, then we will, you know, then it's just that next step.
Easier to operationalize, right?
Yeah, yeah,
You're
it's
sourcing it and
yeah, I'm not imposing or enforcing my kind of agenda on it. The you know, the park board, this, you know, be the same. Instead of just having one department with a single policy, you know, set up some citywide expectations that we can,
Yeah.
and then with that comes, you know, policy level, then how are we going to implement? Is
Yep.
there funding decisions that need to be made? And so that's my take on it. You know, sometimes it puts us in a position, or especially the guys on, you know, out there doing the work, that they're the ones
right.
that are deciding to damage the environment or to,
And they're
and
just
it's
delivering the message, right?
Yep.
So we bring that back to policymakers, whether it be on the park board level or citywide, and I think it's a healthy process. It provides the community to be involved, and the education naturally flows from that. So my thoughts on that, it's never anything that we are opposed to. It's just by nature of our work, you know, we have approved procedures, and we go out and do it. It's not to say that those can't be improved.
Yep. Yeah.
So Kelly, on Kelly's iPhone, would you be willing to chime in here about your opinions about this? Is this something you'd like to share with us? Maybe you're still driving and happy to listen still, but we hope to hear from our constituents too. So inviting you into the conversation.
Still driving.
Still driving. Okay, cool.
Okay.
Cool. All right, very good.
Okay.
So on that topic, just to sort of close it out, what do you know, how do you see moving that forward, right? So it's not just a Parks and Rec thing. Like, what does that look like? And is this, you know, it seems like a good idea. It seems good on multiple fronts. What do you, next steps? What are we thinking?
We got a lot of data on it. You know, the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency's got it, Soil and Water Conservation District's got it, Public Works has the data. I mean, the data is all out there. Nature Conservancy, Sierra Club, I mean, everybody's got the data on how damaging chlorides are. And Paul's absolutely right. It's a policy issue, and it's about getting together as a team to do what's right for the community. And if that's doing a training, whether folks get certified or not, just having that education and knowledge is so important. And then maybe it's about the council changing, saying, hey, look, we need to change what we're doing and implement something new over the course of 3 years or something, or slam dunk it and start it this winter. You know, who knows what it's like. But I think that's what it's about, is making the policy shift to ensure that we are doing the right thing. But it can't just be that. It's got to be the education along with it.
Yeah.
There's got to be buy-in from the community and the city team and all that other stuff. So
my nature is geared toward action. So how serious are we about this? Is this something like, how could Paul and I help? How could, if we're going to policy, how
about a study session? How about a study
Ooh.
session on chloride usage and how the city would want to change that? And that would have to be a combination, I think, with Public Works, because
Yep.
I do know that Public
Yep.
Works is using more
Yep.
salt. I mean,
Yep.
that's just obvious
Yep.
because of your two roles. And I'm talking with the director of Public Works, Wendy Turi, and a couple of her awesome minions next week. So we're going to talk about some road stuff. But I started a smart salting campaign with the East Side Neighborhood Association a couple of years ago. And I showed this cute little dorky little 2-minute video that's very fun, and it really gets the point across. And then, of course, with the water steward stuff. So, and I know that Stephanie, the education specialist with Public Works, she's working on getting some new pamphlets and stuff out for this summer. So if we could even push it at the farmers market, cross those layers of partnerships there with different organizations and agencies to really get the word out, I think that would be great. Yeah.
And when we say study session, we're talking about a city council study session.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Where
Cool.
you guys bring some information forward. Hey, look, the data's there. We really could be doing better. This is how we could be doing better, but we really can't go this far, or it's a dive all in thing. But yeah, it wouldn't have to be long. And I certainly don't want you all to take a bunch of time. But yeah, I mean, we could talk about that in one of our strategy sessions, or if you all think it's important, go for it. Bring this forward to us. I think it's important.
We've had some really good examples of that on a real kind of basic level. I think it's been 2 years now. The city went through policy change on use of polystyrene in the workplace and events. And I'll just tell you kind of my experience of that. And I'm sure would be similar as we go through any kind of shift in policy like this. Is I was thinking, well, we just don't use polystyrene. I just can't, yeah, we could have, it'd be really easy to us to adapt to this policy. And then you start looking at all the layers, events that we partner with, and could we make that reach a little further into shelter reservations but then just getting back to the office, I went back and looked at our cabinets, and just on that basic level of kind of day-to-day use, we tend to have hit and miss kind of events where we serve refreshments, with consultant comes in to do some public engagement. And so we get the supplies for that, and then we put them in storage. I was just kind of amazed at how many styrofoam cups were in the Parks and Rec office, so I'm just saying, it was a really healthy process where you just kind of get to inventory, maybe, there's probably things out of habit that we've done that we need to correct. And anyway, I think this would be a similar process where we started that study session. I'm sure you're going to hear a lot of challenges with, safety of the roads, and, that would be more the Public Works feedback, but not to say we can't start the conversation, for sure.
Yeah, and that's very appropriate. Public safety is the largest part of our city's budget. I mean, we have to pay attention to that. We can't deny that that's the biggest deal of what we do, is keeping everybody safe. And you can't ignore the supply chain either, which is what you were talking about.
Exactly.
I remember
Exactly.
when polystyrene was banned from being produced. Was it like the early 80s or late 70s? And I kept waiting for the polystyrene egg cartons to disappear. It was like decades. I mean, how many polystyrene egg cartons were produced to meet the demand in advance, right? And you don't just throw them away. You can't recycle them. You can't reconvert that product into a new product, right? We weren't doing like life cycle analysis, ISO 14001 back then to judge and gauge how you can convert one product into another. But so you got to use them up. So it took like a decade to get them all used up, and now you hardly don't ever see them anymore. So it's about, like Paul said, it's about those policies of maybe just flat out, they're just not available to purchase in our city anymore. And I'm not suggesting we go there by any means, but if they're not available to purchase, then when you run out for an event that you're hosting and you're serving refreshments, they're just not available to buy. And that's what policy does, is
Yes.
it forks things as long as it's data driven. So yeah.
I wonder, so I have, this is just, I don't know, turning into like a discovery session.
That's what they kind of do, yeah.
Is
That's
that
what they
okay?
do.
Okay, so maybe this isn't appropriate, but if it's not, we can take it offline. But have we ever, and I don't know how we sort of move things through, like, have we ever come, we being, I don't even know who, sort of with this like collective, like, okay, so here's what we've heard, here's what the data is telling us, here's what we, because we've got a clear sponsor in you, right, with a lot of these, with the salt training, with pesticide free part, right, all this stuff sort of overlaps. Have we ever brought something like in partnership where it's like a Parks and Rec or in council member, whoever, and brings sort of a portfolio of recommendations to council and are like, hey, here's what we've heard, here's where we're like thinking of going. What do you guys think about this? Would you be, supplier diversity stuff is so much bigger than Parks and Rec, right? Like that gets into sourcing and I don't even know where that goes. So I'm thinking of sort of this proactive, I'm not saying we're reactive. And has anything like that ever been done? Is that how we function? I don't know.
You want to take that one first, Paul? You've been with the city sort of longer than I have.
I think just some amazing policy and direction it come from that very just kind of what I heard, I was kind of reminiscing as you were talking about that. The polystyrene policy change, pretty basic example compared to some of the bigger picture citywide implications that we're talking about today. But it really starts at that very, bringing a question up in a council meeting or a study session. I think that's in the Parks and Rec department, that's how pesticide-free parks came about. It really was. There were several comments directed to the department, but it really was a small group of people with really, they were very concerned about the impacts of pesticides, and we responded to that. We brought it to the board. We started out with 7. We're now up to 12. So I think it's just that it's just bringing the awareness to the policymakers, and that's the challenge is when it's a health and safety issue, things tend to happen pretty fast. And I think when it's kind of a far-reaching goal, and there's budget and other resources involved, then it's there tends to be more pause and consideration. But I think the more people that come to the table, and that that's what I wanted to say about just this meeting that you're having. I know that they will take off and you'll get, and I know you've had more people attend in the past. I've had people refer to these meetings when they've come to me with ideas, but I think it's just really getting more people aware and involved. And we really need to help them. I think a lot of people are resistant to coming to meetings like this or coming to board meetings because they think their voice will not be heard. And we have very good examples of that. I'm speaking from the park board perspective. So it's, I don't know if that answered the question, but
Did.
yeah, it's, and you've seen this when even one person comes to a council meeting or board meeting with a really valid, I don't want to say well thought out, because they're always well thought out when they have that willingness to step forward. But I've seen policy shifts just from one person standing up and saying, this needs to change. So
I have an excellent example of this, and it just happened at Monday night's council meeting. A couple of months ago, I got an email, and I can't remember if it went all to the council or not, but it was sort of my deal to respond to, because it involved the bus stops downtown on 2nd Street, which are right next to the Mayo campus. A constituent of one of ours reached out, and this constituent had an asthma attack just about the whole way home because she inhaled smoke.
Wow.
Secondhand smoke.
Yeah.
And the bus stops are 15 feet away is a no smoking zone. I immediately said I want it increased to 25 feet. I roped in Anna Oldenburg from Olmsted County Public Health, and then Aya, can't remember Aya's last name. And I think, because Anna worked really hard on the T21, the tobacco 21 stuff, to get the tobacco age raised to 21. And so we implemented it. It didn't even have to become a council initiated action. It was something that was more than that. It's like, this is affecting the health and safety of our bus users. I mean, that's a public realm thing. I even went so far as to inquire about the boundary changes that Mayo Clinic is going through right now in the campus borders. If there's a contiguous perimeter around the Mayo campus and the city's got an easement of the roadway usage, but people walk across the roadway and they're at the buses, does Mayo have jurisdiction within their boundary, even though it's above a city street? Meaning, could we make the entire campus smoke-free? Their buildings are, but so maybe it'll go there, but that's where my brain went. I mean, several years ago, maybe it's a couple decades ago now, the mid-90s, we passed the no indoor smoking anywhere in Olmsted County. You used to be able to smoke in restaurants, and you can't anymore. So that was the instance of one person, one individual in Rochester speaking up and reaching out via email saying, hey, my health was compromised because of this. What can we do? And bam, the city responded, and we all voted, I think, unanimously Monday night. It didn't need to be a council initiated action with a couple of council members that wanted to see a change. This was awesome change by a voter, and that's the way it should be. Power to the people, of the people, by the people, for the people. That's what I ran on.
Yes.
Yeah, Lincoln's Gettysburg Address. There you go. Well, we have just got a real crowd here of one person. So glad you called in, Kelly. I hope we're making your drive wherever you're going better. What else do we have to talk about? We hit on the pesticide-free parks, smart salting. We hit on the no mow May thing. I guess what's left is that soccer field scheduling. That was just something I wanted to bring up because I know I was involved with it, and it's in Ward 4.
Yep.
Do you recall that series of emails, Paul?
yes, and I can tell you just some of my reflections and concerns about kind of the global issue around that. One thing that is unique about our department is the way we provide programs. And Some cities our size have a full-on staff that do all the programming, soccer, baseball, and you name it, any indoor sport, they staff and deliver programs that way. Everything from the registration to getting fields set up, which we do, but the administration of the program. We do every program we offer, with the exception of a handful, is through a partnership. And so that's why it's this issue does come up. Why do you give why do you focus attention and give this youth group or this sports group more field time than others? And it's just because of the history of working with that group and delivering those programs, which we consider our public programs. And so there is that impression that we are edging others out, and it's never our intention to do that. If we were doing all of our own programming, we'd probably, I can guarantee we'd have the same issue. The city is running all these programs. Why can't I get my program on this field? So it's really kind of if you look at it that way, it would be kind of the same issue no matter how we get programs out on the fields. So, and then to back up, we have this particular incident. We really, although everyone may not be happy with the outcome, we brought all of our partners together and said, hey, there is a group wanting field time. What can we do? There were compromises made. There was reshifting of the schedule. The other part of that is any sports program runs this way. We have our practice fields and we have our game fields, and game fields are kept as pristine as possible. They're only used for games with some exceptions. So that kind of came into it too. Why can't I just get out there on the game fields and practice? And so that issue was sorted out. I was in some of the conversations. I felt that there was a lot of effort to get fields and believe me, even the leagues that are out there running the bulk of the programs never get what they want. And there is, I've had kids in soccer and programs, and I'm guilty of being the same way. I want all my practices to be within walking distance of my house, and I want all the games to be Saturday between 10 and 1, and unfortunately, because of demand, it doesn't work out that way. But bottom line, I thought we did our very best to accommodate the requests that came in. And it's a lot of it too is we've experienced growth the past few years, and our fields are not keeping up with it. It's not rampant growth by any means, but we have, I think, families moving in with kids that are wanting to get out on the field. So that's probably skews the numbers a little bit. And then just demand for sports programming, especially soccer, is always on the increase. So that's kind of a little history. We have the same issues with swimming indoors and with hockey. So it's always a challenge.
Hey, Paul, have we ever done like a lottery?
Well,
These like slots, because it gets into process, right? And how do you, how are we ensuring sort of equitable access, right? And like who gets the best slots and how does that work? And I mean, thank you for all the detail you just provided. I was like, how would I manage that? Like, I don't know what that is. So the idea of a lottery sort of popped up. It's like, okay, it's probably much more complex than that.
yeah, and I would say our, it's the Minnesota Rush or the Rochester Rush, who are the bulk of our soccer field users. And if they had, and their mission is to provide a very basic recreational experience for the kids. Now, and if you look at at our mission, that aligns perfectly. We feel although we don't discourage, we encourage if kids want to go on to travel leagues and programs. That's the parents of families' prerogative, but our mission is really to provide recreation for as many people as possible.
Yes.
And so if they shifted their mission to say, we are going to go more into the high end soccer, and I would say, yeah, we would probably be right where you're suggesting, Kaia, is if that's the case, we want to make sure we are giving everybody, no matter what the program, a fair shot at
No, that
but
makes
since, yeah, and if you look at it, the swim club, we give them priority at the rec center. We have a very unique partnership. It's documented in an agreement, and the bulk of their program is learn to swim, and then getting into more competitive swim team. If they were a traveling competitive program, we'd probably look at that differently.
Yeah.
So
very good. Thanks, Paul.
I would say if that was ultimately fair and get programs distributed equally throughout the city, I would be all in on that. But with those with the unique partnerships we have that do get programming out far and wide, it gets a little more complicated than that.
So, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So a lot of times these meetings have run to like 11:20, 11:30, but we do have to wrap up at 11 today because there's a musician coming in, and I don't want to hog that. So that's kind of cool. Lots of neat stuff happening here at Fiddlehead. But you touched on swimming, and I want to say that across the board for the folks that have reached out to me, this is a completely nonpartisan or bipartisan issue. Folks want the pools open this summer. They want the pools open, and by the pools open, I mean every pool available. A school pool with the doors open during the summer when school isn't in session. We've got lifeguards there. We've got a big portion of our population that wants to access lessons, and not that I want to dialogue about it a lot. I just want to put that bug in your ear that that's what I'm hearing. And I think a lot of the council people are hearing that. The pools need to be open for kids to do something other than on their cell phone. And our culture is changing, and giving them a physical activity like that, whether it's an indoor or an outdoor pool. And we need to get that infrastructure built back up so that we can supply our folks with outdoor activities too. And I don't know what that's going to look like, if that's going to come from shared funds with the county and the city. I don't know if it's going to come from the referendum. I know you all at the parks had talked about, well, the study that was done in 2016, does it carry the same weight? Do we have new issues? What are we thinking of doing? So I want to let you know that's what I'm hearing, and I think it'd be really, really important. Yeah.
I can give you a quick answer to that, and it's probably you're going to hear some of my frustration over this issue in my answer, but
Yep.
I don't think if this was a transit issue, you would be telling Public Works to keep a 62-year-old bus running because people need transportation. I understand we need that recreation outlet. We need safe places for kids to enjoy summer recreation, but it is becoming a greater challenge year to year to keep both these pools open. They are both outdated beyond any expectation. On one hand, you've got Silver Lake Pool, which just has it was built when concrete was cheap, and it is just an amazing shell. But everything that supports that is it's a miracle that it runs when it does. And we've been very fortunate to be able to keep it open as long as we have and to make it through seasons. We haven't made it through a season in the past 5 years where we haven't had major breakdowns at both pools. So something has to give in this discussion, and just demanding that a pool remain open is not the answer. Our system plan addresses this, and it calls for complete renovation of Soldiers Field Pool, which would be, in my view, and I believe it's pointed out fairly, on a very high level, to expand what we have at Soldiers to include increased lap opportunities and a children's area and splash features. And then it calls for a interactive water feature at Silver Lake. Now, if the question has come up, is that plan valid? Do we need to take another look at the system plan? I'm all in on that. In fact, I'm working with our communications team to get feedback on that very thing. Council approved funding to do that. And we're going to use that information to inform, make sure we're heading down the right path with the pools. But that's the direction, that's the energy where we need to focus our energy, is what is the future of aquatics in Rochester? It's not demanding that we squeeze another year of life out of an outdated pool that I cannot guarantee can make it through another season. So that that's where I'm at. I definitely understand the sentiment that's out there and the desire to have that pool. The other thing is the numbers do not, if we were looking at this as a participation, do we have enough pool and opportunity by keeping one pool open? The numbers tell us we have plenty of room. Soldiers Field has a capacity of 456, and we have daily use averages about 200 at that pool. Silver Lake Pool has a capacity of over 500, and we have about 60 to 80 average. And that's not 60 to 80 people in the pool at one time. That's throughout the day. So you're looking at 10 to 15, maybe 30 at one time. So we made that recommendation based on some pretty extreme targets we had to meet with last year's budget. But we did so by looking at these numbers and knowing, both pools are limping along. They're both on life support right now. And is it better to triage one pool and keep it going as long as we can, rather than distribute the resources to both? And just a reminder, that decision was made September of last year. It hasn't come up, the board just didn't decide to close the pool. That decision was made as part of the budget process.
Thank you.
Thanks, Paul. That was a good response. I appreciated your analogy, especially of the transit, and if this was a 62-year-old car or 62-year-old buses. Hadn't thought about it that way, but you're right. If we were going to undertake, restoring our vintage vehicle, it's a completely different thing. And I don't think you restore vintage pools. You bring aquatics up to what the population needs, that's on par with the size of the city compared to other cities that we compare with. And yeah, that's a different conversation altogether. So I appreciate what you said. So we're at 11.
We're at 11. Do we want to check in with Kelly one more time?
Yeah, let's check in with Kelly one more time on the iPhone. She's
Kelly, you're a trooper. Thanks for joining us.
Yes, I appreciate you having these Zoom meetings, Kelly. It's very much appreciated for the neighborhood. So thank you for that. I look forward to next month's meeting. I guess we're concerned about the bus rapid transit and 3rd Avenue, which is very negative impact on my neighborhood. So when that discussion comes up, I'll be very vocal.
Awesome, good. Yeah, I know that that's a double-edged sword. And, when we met with the DMC in February at kind of the annual co-meeting of everyone, city and county, there was a lot of positive conversation about the rail line, about actually using the rail line from maybe the 20th Street Seneca plant up to, let's say, Civic Center Drive or over by Hy-Vee Parallel Plaza, and it would just be a back and forth, a back and forth. The infrastructure is already there. All we need to buy is a unit. And wow, if we could run it on electric, it's like there'd be no noise for you all. There'd be no pollution, no particulate, and wow, just a quick up and back, and we don't need to change our roadways.
And it wouldn't cut off. That's our big thing. We have to go to 2 lanes. I mean, basically, in 3rd Avenue, if you did that, and that's really our only exit is 3rd Avenue, and it's backed up now. So
Right.
it's like, how the hell are we supposed to get in it?
Right. And yeah, I suppose we could open up like a 10th Street or a 9.5 Street or even 11th Street onto Broadway, that have been since closed off. But why not look at the rail line? I think it's really positive, and it goes right through Graham Park too, which is, eventually 10 years from now might be a real big deal. So I appreciate your comment. Thank you for chiming in, and thank you for hanging in there with us. And yeah. So next May, it'll be May 29th. This is going to be an outdoor event at Due North Coffee, which is the corner of 13th Avenue or Marion Road and Highway 14. It'll be in the Aaron Spanish parking lot. Looking for nice weather there. And then also don't forget the Slatterly Park plant sale on May 1st. And I think that is the only announcements that I have. So thank you very much, Kaia, Ward 4 Park Commissioner, for joining me today. And thank you for attending and offering all your information, Paul. You're the guru of Rochester Parks, you two. So thank you very much. And all right, I'm going to sign off till next time. So
Thank you both. Thank you all.
yeah,
Bye-bye.
Have a good Saturday.
yeah.
You too.
Rock your weekend.
Rock your weekend.
Rock your
Thanks.
weekend.
Rock your weekend.